My brother's wedding vows exposed a secret I was never supposed to hear. Standing at the altar in his dress uniform, Jake looked directly at me and said, "Thank you to my little sister who taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right even when you're terrified, like the night she called 911 Dad was hurting Mom." This happened at Jake's military wedding last month when I thought I was just there to be his maid of honor and celebrate his happiness with his new bride Emma. I'd never told anyone about that night when I was 12 and called the police on our father during one of his violent episodes that had escalated beyond anything I'd seen before. Mom had made me promise never to talk about it with anyone, and Jake was deployed overseas at the time, so I thought he didn't know what had happened that night. The wedding was beautiful. Jake looked incredible in his dress blues, and his bride Emma was glowing as they exchanged personal vows they'd written themselves for this special day. When it was Jake's turn to speak, he started with the usual stuff about love and commitment that you expect to hear at weddings between two people in love. But then he looked past Emma and directly at me, standing beside her as maid of honor, holding her bouquet and trying not to cry at their beautiful words. "Before I make these promises to you, Emma, I need to thank the person who taught me what real courage looks like," he said with his voice cracking slightly. My heart started racing because I had no idea where this was going or why he was suddenly looking at me during his wedding vows to another woman. "My little sister Sarah was 12 years old when she made the hardest phone call of her life," Jake continued, his voice getting stronger with each word. I felt the blood drain from my face as I realized what he was about to say in front of 150 wedding guests, including extended family and military friends. "She called 911 on our father to protect our mother, even though she was terrified of what would happen next and what the consequences might be for our family." Emma squeezed my hand as tears started falling down my cheeks, and I could see Mom crying in the front row while Dad's side of the family looked uncomfortable. "Sarah never knew that Mom called me that night in Afghanistan and told me what she'd done," Jake said, "how she'd saved Mom's life by being brave when the adults couldn't be. I'd carried the guilt and secrecy of that night for 8 years, thinking I'd betrayed our family by calling the police and potentially destroying everything we had. I've spent my entire military career trying to live up to the courage my 12-year-old sister showed that night when she chose to protect someone she loved," Jake said. "Sarah, you saved our family, and you taught me that sometimes protecting the people you love means making the hardest choices, even when you're just a kid." The entire wedding party was crying at this point, and I could hear people in the audience sniffling and whispering about what Jake had just revealed. After the ceremony, Mom hugged me and whispered, "I should have told you years ago how proud I was of what you did instead of making you keep it secret." Jake told me later that he'd wanted to honor that moment publicly because it had shaped who he became as a soldier and as a man committed to protecting others. Emma said she'd known about that night because Jake had told her early in their relationship, and it was one of the reasons she fell in love with him. Sometimes the secrets we carry as burdens are actually the moments that define our strength and courage in ways we never imagined possible.